Paul Krutko. I'm President and CEO of Ann Arbor Spark. Well, I lead as the CEO of a nonprofit economic development partnership that's regionally based, but is also across all of the sectors of the economy. So I have stakeholders that come from the university community, over 60 companies that provide support, as well as all the local units of government. We primarily deliver services in two basic areas. About half of what we do is to support early stage company commercialization activities and growth from initial ideas that may come out of a tech transfer environment at the University of Michigan. The other half is a traditional economic development organization that does business retention and attraction of large, mature companies. The support we provide to companies at different points in their potential growth, you don't want to. This is just an aside in terms of my business. There's a lot of the old phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. It's the same thing with an early stage company. So lots of different people have success. I think what we like to look at are three things that in the cadre of companies we've helped over the last 5 years, 70% of them are still in business. If you think in technology areas, if you think about business failure rates in the United States in general, around the world, that's pretty good. Also, that they are creating significant jobs as they're growing. And so that's important. But even more important, we're seeing significant follow-on capital to the companies that we've been able to help. So that means that they have ideas and have new products and services that are attracting investment after we've been able to help them in that early stage. I think the thing that I've had a very diverse career. I've worked all over the United States in a variety of positions. I think the thing that inspires me the most is that oftentimes economic developers are change agents in their community, and they are able to change the trajectory of a community. That trajectory might have been going in a way that wouldn't point to increased prosperity, new and better jobs, better incomes, better outcomes for families in terms of quality of life from that economy. So I think what inspires me is that I've had the chance to work on projects or programs or initiatives that, looking back, you can see change the trajectory for the better of the community that I was working in. I came up through the profession with a group of colleagues that we tended to learn from each other, and we have continued to learn from each other as we've moved around the country and changed positions. And it's one of the important aspects for me of my involvement in IEDC. But it was a group of people at a particular time. There really wasn't, for me, there wasn't a standout mentor or, when I went to work for a particular agency, that there was someone that I said, oh, that's who I want to emulate. But it was more sort of a peer group of lots of people that had influences that to this day continue to have that influence. The thing that's different from when I started is that we now have across the United States a cadre of professional economic developers who are engaged in making a difference in the communities they are and all over the country. So that's a particular accomplishment. I think that this has moved from just a handful of people in the United States that were engaged in this activity, that after several decades we now have a significant professional group of people who know how to do this work. Yeah, the thing that I always try to impress upon young people coming into the profession who have an aptitude for the profession is that persistence is probably a key trait to have. You can't underestimate, and this has been true for me, been true for people that I've worked with, that one more phone call or that one more attempt to reach somebody or an extra effort at a particular meeting can result in substantial success for your community. Oftentimes I say that economic development leaders sometimes can be the patron saints of lost causes. And what I mean by that is that they have the persistence that they know something is important for their community and keep working towards it, even when a lot of people around them don't think that this is a possibility. Well, in my work, we sometimes have very long-term relationships with either companies or leaders of those companies or people in the community. And we do get very strong positive feedback about the work that we've done. We take a look at, for example, total job creation in our community. And we can trace back in a given year in a particular sector how many of those jobs really resulted from our efforts. And that is an important piece of feedback. But oftentimes the companies will very much acknowledge that they couldn't have done this on their own. They couldn't have found that particular building. They couldn't have made the case if an incentive was involved to whichever the approving body was, nor in more recent times would they be able to find the talent that the company needs to actually fulfill their needs. Though one of the things that I've done in recent years is we've tried to really tie that company success to the individuals who are actually getting those jobs and having those increased incomes. And we've used that as an approach and really found that those people appreciate the fact that they can be acknowledged in that way. Well, today, I think the challenge for an economic development professional is the degree of globalization and competition that is happening. When I started nearly 4 decades ago, the United States was a defined marketplace. And while it's still the world's largest economy, it's the largest economy in a much larger global economy now. And it's sometimes very difficult for economic developers who understand those global dynamics to be able to communicate that effectively and to lead their community to respond effectively to that. It's very clear that more jobs result from more interaction in the global marketplace, but there is still a great tendency to want to protect and to not respond well to the change. So I think that today the biggest challenge for an economic developer is helping its community understand to, adapt to, and succeed in a very globalized environment. Well, it's absolutely been a help to me. I've had the good fortune to be involved in this organization in terms of my career over the last 20 years or so, and in fact been able to give back to the profession through IEDC, both serving on the board, having the chance to be the chair of the organization. But, and it's helped me grow in terms of both my leadership skills in that way. Things that I'm particularly proud of in terms of working through IEDC have been that I had the chance to be a part of creating an ethics policy for IEDC for our profession. We had not approached that sort of professional threshold where we are thinking about a set of ethical standards and how we work with them with the broader membership. And then the founding of the Economic Development Research Partnership. We wanted IEDC to be able to be a thought leader in terms of what's talked about in terms of economic development in the country. And by a group of us now that's grown to a substantive number in the organization, contributing a little bit more resources, we now have a large research budget at IEDC that we can put out very thoughtful pieces for the entire profession and for the nation as a whole about important economic development issues. Well, I think that all of us who have done this work for a little while or for a long while can point to, can go back to, some of us have the good fortune of working in multiple places, some of us stay in one place and work, but I think in either case, you have the satisfaction of driving down a particular road and seeing something that you were a part of creating with others that created new jobs in the community, brought new incomes to that community, created an opportunity for people to have better lives and have better lives for their children. So the rallying cry for the work is, I don't know of another profession that can touch the lives of an entire community in a very significant way like we do. Certainly, if you're a doctor and you're healing people and things like that. But in our case, we actually create the economic prosperity that allows an entire community or a region to be successful. And that's a very gratifying and satisfying type of work. So I encourage young people to consider it, because there is a whole lot of satisfaction that comes from the work. We have to do a better job as professionals and as a profession of connecting the dots for people between what we do and those outcomes. So for me, I can identify specific things that I did in each of my stops in my career that are important to that community, and that I personally know might not have happened if I hadn't moved a piece of paper, or if I hadn't taken a particular meeting, or I hadn't come up with a particular idea. But economic development is a team sport, and you've touched on one of the elements of it, that a lot of our profession is supported, needs support from political leadership. And so there is an element of quiet leadership in the profession. You learn that's how to be successful. I would say to colleagues that I know over the 4 years, and I don't know if this is something you're going to want to use, but colleagues that I've known over the 4 decades that I've worked, who tend to take credit, tend to put themselves forward, don't stay in the business very long. So it requires the ability to lead in a quiet way and in a convening way. But I think your point is well taken, because for me, the redevelopment of the warehouse district in Cleveland, a modern museum of art in Jacksonville, Florida, a policy and strategy in San Jose that allowed development to happen when the environmental rules said no more development in the middle of Silicon Valley, and to now working on the American Center for Mobility. It's going to be a 350-acre nation-leading connected and autonomous vehicle facility, is something that I know that I'm responsible for. But if you put yourself in front of it, that will cause others. So success has 1,000 fathers in this business. If any adage is true, I think it's true of economic development.